Yes.
Get ready to take control of your own financial destiny. It's time to build your dream business. Welcome to The Empowered Entrepreneur.
This just got exciting.
With your host, Spider Graham. Your education starts now.
Hello and welcome to the broadcast. This is Spider. And this time around, I want to talk about something that, it's interesting. In business, we talk about all sorts of best practices, all sorts of things we can do to be more productive, more effective, more empowered. But one of the things that almost never comes up in this conversation is taking good care of yourself so that you can do a better job and be more productive. And I want to talk a little bit about this today because I think it's an incredibly important thing for not only success in business, but success in life in general. And that is staying healthy. Now, of course, we all want to stay healthy. This is not a problem for most of us to find an attitude where we say, hey, I want to be a healthy person. But what we do find is that a lot of us have the tendency to give it a lot of lip service, but not necessarily follow up, not necessarily do the things we need to do in order to stay healthy. Now, part of the challenge I think we run into, and I know I ran into this personally, is that we get so busy with other things that the idea of taking care of ourselves or exercising or eating as well as we can or whatever we need to do just isn't always there. We kind of do it piecemeal. Yeah, once in a while I'll have some Brussels sprouts because I know they're good for me kind of thing and, move on. I'll have a salad today. The challenge, of course, is that we're going to have a big problem overall with our health unless we do things to change it and make it a priority in our lives. And that's the bottom line. And I wanted to share a quick story with you about kind of how I got to where I am today with regard to health issues, as well as kind of my outlook on things. And by the way, I was a fortunate younger person in that I did not have any weight challenges. I was actually underweight, to be truthful, and I was very thin, and it kind of came in handy, frankly, because I didn't have to spend a lot of time worrying about becoming big or worrying about losing extra weight, etc. The challenge, of course, is that even with all of this, great genes, I also find myself in a world where, if I don't exercise on a fairly regular basis, I mean, at least once a decade, it just doesn't work out for me. And so the challenge that I ran into personally is I arrived at my mid-40s, and I hadn't done much of anything for about 20 years. Running wasn't one of those things I spent a lot of time doing, going to the gym. Once in a while you go lift something heavy, and you tell yourself you did a heck of a good job, and now you're in fantastic shape. And the challenge started when my wife had seen one of these commercials on television for this exercise program. And she said, hey, can we get that? And I said, wow, we don't need that. And she's like, well, I would really like to get it. And if I get it, would you do it with me? And I said, well, I don't really need it. Because look at me, I'm in pretty good shape, right? I eat okay. And I exercised sometime when I was in my 20s. I'm probably perfect. But the reality of my life was, guess what? I was kind of full of crap. And I was not willing to admit to myself that actually I didn't want to go down that path because it looked like an awful lot of hard work. And frankly, it looked uncomfortable. And I was a little scared I was going to find that I wasn't in as good a shape as I really wanted to believe that I was. And by the way, that's pretty much how it turned out. So, little persistence, she says, can we get this? And I said, fine, we'll get the program. And so we get these DVDs, and she says, I'm ready to work out. Are you ready to work out with me? And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'll give it a try today, but we'll see what happens. And so we set out. And it's an hour-long program that runs you through some basic things. And, not all of them were super easy. And as a matter of fact, I pretty much crippled myself the first day. It was horrible. And I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that I didn't throw up twice during the workout. I wish I were making this up, but I was in such bad shape that the aerobics just made me not able to keep food in my stomach. Now, this is an embarrassing point in my life. And so I finally said, wow, this really hurts. I don't want to do this anymore. Why do we have to do this? But I also understood the fact that I couldn't do it and the fact that I'd given it lip service put me in a position where guess who really needed to get back in shape? Yeah, it was me. And so I stuck with it. And it hurt, and it tortured me, and frankly did not make me feel real good about myself. It made me feel really out of shape, really kind of stupid because I had let myself get to this point, and not a happy place for me to be. Now, I'm not saying that, everyone has to go to the bottom of the ditch before they figure out that maybe something's wrong. But the truth of the matter is, at that point in time, I weighed more than I had ever weighed before in my life. Now, okay, maybe I wasn't incredibly, gigantically huge, but it was still big for me. It's not a place I needed to be. Aerobically, I was in rough shape. And so the opportunity for me to figure out how to take care of this problem was really becoming a priority. And it was an eye-opening experience. And the reality was I started going out running. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna have to figure this out. And so I went out running one day and I said, all right, I'm just gonna figure out how far I can run. That's all. How far can I run before my legs or my wind or whatever tells me you got to stop running? And I went out and I think I made 1/8 of a mile. It was not impressive. Okay, run a couple blocks. I'm winded. I'm thinking I'm probably going to lose my breakfast in the bushes, but I made a mark of it. I said, okay, so I learned a little something today. 1/8 of a mile, not necessarily record breaking, but that's where you're going to start. And tomorrow, you're going to come back out here and you're going to run and you're going to try to beat that. And that's what I did. I went out the next day, and guess what? My legs were super sore. How's that for pathetic? So I went out, I ran a little bit further. And the day after that, I ran a little bit further. And eventually I was at 1/4 of a mile. And eventually I was at 1/2 a mile. And eventually I could run an entire mile without stopping. It was an amazing breakthrough for me. And by the way, I went on to 2 miles and I went on to 3 miles. And I actually got to a point where 1 mile was nothing. It was like a warm-up. And today I'm happy to say that I run 5K road races for fun. They're not always easy. There's still some challenges running 3 miles, 3+ miles. But the reality of my life was that it was no longer this huge challenge. It was no longer this unsurmountable thing that I had to feel embarrassed about. And I went through the exercise program with my wife, and we really both toned up. It was a bit of a beating, but at the end of the period of time that we spent working together and being able to get in shape together, I was in, frankly, the best physical shape of my entire life. Okay, I'm a man approaching the end of my 40s, and I have just discovered working out for the first time. I'm in great shape. My aerobics are good. My wind is good. My muscle tone is fantastic. I can easily run 3+ miles. And I started kicking myself and thinking, why didn't I do this before? Now, one of the other questions that I had to come to terms with in my own mind was, well, what's the importance of doing this? Okay, so I could say, hey, if I look in the mirror, I don't look like such a fat schlub. That's a good start. But that wasn't necessarily why I wanted to work out. I didn't spend a lot of time saying, oh, I have bad body image. I need to make sure that I look really fit. And where's that 6-pack ab I wanted? Instead, I really needed to come to terms from a lifestyle standpoint of what being in shape would do for me, not only physically, but also emotionally. And this is really the crux of how I got to this point. Because I started to realize as I worked out, and it sounds so cliche because you hear it all over the place, but guess what? It's absolutely true that the more you exercise, the more you work out, the more energy you have. Now, it sounds paradoxical. You're thinking, well, how can I have more energy? I just used it all up trying to run. But guess what? You do that, and we would do these amazing workout sessions, and then sometime in the afternoon, your brain would go, did you work out today? Are you kidding me? I spent an hour hurting myself, and yet I'd forget about it because it no longer hurt. It wasn't hard anymore. And, oh, yeah, that's right, I did. You know, there were times in my life I would have worked out. I would have bragged for the next 6 months telling you about this amazing 1-hour workout I did. Now I'm at a point in my life where I'm forgetting that I actually worked out at all. And by the way, it's a kind of cool place to be. But being able to go and do these intense workouts and then say, hey, I'm going to go play softball this afternoon with my friends and not have it be an issue, not feeling crippled, not feeling even winded, and being in fantastic shape and being able to run and being in just good prime physical condition. Fantastic place to be, but even better, knowing that you can do it. Knowing that you don't have to spend a lot of time worrying about things like, hey, how am I doing health-wise? How is my heart doing? How are my lungs doing? Well, guess what? I get a chance to work with mine every single day. My heart and lungs and I are now intimate. And I would tell you if there's something wrong. Everything's really good. And when I go to the doctor, he just says, well, you know, I'm a little concerned about your cholesterol because it's too low. How is that for a good problem to have? Okay? I have the same blood pressure now that I had when I was 17 years old. Once again, I am not complaining at all. But I am saying that you want to make sure you take care of yourself. Learn from other people's mistakes. Learn from my mistakes. Be able to look in the mirror and say, I'm not just delusional. I'm not just telling myself I'm in great shape and I eat well, because guess what? I wasn't in good shape. I was 30 pounds overweight, frankly. I wasn't necessarily eating well. Yeah, okay, I wasn't living on nothing but cheeseburgers, but there's a difference between that and eating really well and eating food that's good for you and that will sustain you and keep you healthful, right? You want to make sure you do these things. One of the points I want to make is that if you're going to go down this path, if you're going to seriously start to reflect on ways that you can get yourself in better shape, then you need to be able to do it for yourself. Don't do it for anybody else. Because if you start doing this to keep your spouse happy about how you look or anybody else in your life, you're probably going to end up disappointing them and yourself. So come to terms with the fact that you're doing this for you. And by the way, I approach my daily workout, and by the way, I still work out every single day because it's so important to me, but I approach my daily workout by giving myself, once again, permission to take a little time off for me. This is my time. This is time for me to not only do something good for my body and for my mind, but also just to really have a little time by myself. It's hard sometimes in our lives to get just that little bit of time by ourselves and with our thoughts. And guess what? This is a fantastic opportunity to do that, so there's a plus. But do it for yourself. Don't do it for others. The other thing I will suggest is don't try to be a superhero about it. If you say, well, I think I'm in pretty good shape, I'm going to go out and run 2 miles to see how I feel. If you haven't run 2 miles and say, since the Carter administration, then chances are you're going to hurt yourself. And so don't go out and cripple yourself on day one, because the only message you're going to give to yourself is, well, yeah, I tried working out, but it really hurt me, and I couldn't walk for 4 days, so yeah, I don't want to do that again. Right? You don't need to go out and make yourself so painfully crippled sore that you can't do anything else. You want to go out and do it progressively. So set some benchmarks. If you're going to do weight training, say, okay, how much weight am I lifting? How many reps am I going to give? Write this stuff down and then try to beat it every day. Okay, can I do a better job today? Can I do a better job today? Same thing with running. If you decide you want to start running again, and by the way, I should tell you somewhere along the way that I decided a long time ago that I really didn't like running. Running was not an activity or a sport or anything I enjoyed doing, and I frankly wasn't going to be doing a lot of that running thing in my life. Well, guess what? Attitude changed. I now run almost every single day. I enjoy it. I won't say I love it, because anyone who runs will tell you that there are always challenges. There's always a bit of discomfort, but there's also a sense of satisfaction when you do it. So go out there, find what's going to work for you. If you want to run, figure out how far you can run before it starts to hurt, and then stop. Put that down as a benchmark. Give yourself a line in the sand that you can try to surpass day after day, and eventually, progressively, you will get to a point where you are seeing major improvements in your workout, in your health, in your physique, in your overall attitude day after day. And you can do it without crippling yourself. Now, the last thing I'll mention here, because of course, exercising and taking good care of yourself is one part of it, but the other side of it is nutrition. If you're telling yourself that you eat really, really well, then guess what? Maybe you should focus on figuring out what that means. Now, this isn't to say that you have to go with some sort of vegan lifestyle or eat only foods that, frankly, you're not very interested in. But there are lots of really wholesome and good foods out there that are not only flavorful, they're really good from a nutritional standpoint. They give you a lot more energy. They don't mess with blood sugar. And it's worth just taking some time to educate yourself about what these foods are, what you should be eating, what's going to work for you personally, and also to identify the foods that you probably shouldn't be sucking down on a regular basis. That's not saying you can't have the occasional cheeseburger. If that's what you really want once in a while, go for it. All things in moderation. But if that's all you're eating and you're not exercising and you're living on fast food and fries or whatever, you probably have taken a wrong turn somewhere. So give yourself an opportunity to learn a little bit more about nutrition, identify the things that you enjoy eating that are good for you, and start to work these things in your lifestyle. Now, of course, sometimes you have to bring other people in your life, your family members, your spouse, into this as well, and get them to think about it from a similar standpoint. But you know what? It's also an awful lot of fun, and it's a lot more rewarding to do this type of thing with other people. Working out with other people is a lot more fun. Working out with people who have the same goals and mindset that you do is fantastic. And of course, being able to share a lot of that and a lot of the same nutrition and preparing meals together can also be a way of bringing people together. And one other thing I will mention, because I think it's incredibly important as part of our nutritional balance, is stay hydrated. It's amazing how many problems are created health-wise due to lack of hydration. So getting some regular fluids into you, water preferably, but just make sure that you're doing a good job to keep the tank topped off. Especially if you're doing things like drinking coffee, which is a diuretic, or alcohol, which is also something that will dehydrate you on a fairly regular basis. Of course, moderation in alcohol is always a good idea. But if the kind of thing you had an extra bit of wine with your friends last night, you know what? It's okay, but make sure that you get on the other top of it and give yourself an opportunity to get the hydration levels back up. This is going to help you not only in exercising, but it's going to help you in an awful lot of ways with your productivity and just keeping your brain alert. That's all I really want to have to say on this topic today. Good things come to those who pay attention to themselves. And I'm not saying this from a narcissistic standpoint. I am saying that if you take care of your body, if you take care of the things you need to do from a nutritional standpoint, you'll also take care of your mind. And your mind will thank you by helping you be more productive, by helping you be more empowered, and by helping you be more successful. As always, we invite you to visit SpiderGram.com and join us. Join the conversation that we're having there. We'd love to have it with you. If you're not yet a subscriber, we encourage you to join us. Opportunity to learn not only about the things that are provided through the Empowered Entrepreneur, but also all these things that have to deal with digital marketing and advertising, things that will help you with your business, grow your strategies so that you can do a better job and become everything you want to be as a business person and as a person. Thanks so much for joining me, and peace.
For more free resources and advice for entrepreneurs, visit SpiderGram.com and become a subscriber today.